everyone, welcome to week 2 and your week 2 Monday morning breakfast bite. So here we are, and we have a lot of material to cover, but this week we're going to talk about jurisdiction. You do have to read chapter 6 and 8 in the NSMLR book and chapter 2 in the OSL book. So please be aware of that, and please do read those materials. Also, there may be some supplemental materials. I want you to go ahead and take a look at those. Yes, we do have supplemental materials this week. You have, before I get into the substance of the materials this week, you have quiz 1 to complete, and please complete this week's discussion forum. But on top of that, you do have to locate your team, and I will be assigning teams tomorrow. And when you locate your team, you're going to post to the discussion board. The first to post is the team captain, unless all of you decide otherwise. And you can do that. You can decide among yourselves who's going to be best suited for that role. But this week, you don't necessarily have a team deliverable due this week, and we'll talk about your team deliverable next week and probably schedule a WebEx for that. But you do have to actually go ahead and complete the team building exercise. And there's a form that's provided in the homework folder that you want to go over. And what's going to happen for that is each individual team member is going to complete a part of that form by filling out your 3 challenges, where are your challenges, and your 3 strengths, and you're going to list those. And then what's going to happen is that you're all going to talk together as a team and determine which strength you want to move forward for the next section, and each member will have a strength listed. Then at the end of page 2, what's going to happen is you're going to decide as a team who's going to be responsible for which task based on that strength. Now, tasks can be research, tasks can be writing, tasks can be developing the facts, developing the issues, whatever you're going to be best at. Remember, though, that when it comes to the date that the task is to be completed, what I would do is I would list a day. I would say the Thursday before the assignment due date, the Thursday before the assignment due date, the Wednesday before the assignment due date, whatever it is. You don't have to give a date, because remember, this is going to be something that you're going to be utilizing for each deliverable of the project, and there's 4 deliverables for the team project. So you want to make sure you have that outlined. I know everybody dislikes the team projects, but unfortunately they are a part of our lives and a part of everything that we do in the real world, in our professional lives. So be aware of that, and that's how you're going to break that down and address the team assignment project that is due this week. Now, please take a look at the PowerPoint. I'm going to pull it up right now real quick. And when you look at the PowerPoint, we're going to be talking about jurisdiction this week. And jurisdiction is a very, very important issue in any situation, in any court, and in any case. But it becomes a slippery slope when it comes to e-commerce. And it becomes a slippery slope because you have to look at where's jurisdiction actually taking place. And sometimes when you're doing work just online, it's a little hard to nail that down, right? So jurisdiction comes in 3 primary forms. There's personal jurisdiction, there's subject matter jurisdiction, and there's in rem jurisdiction. In rem jurisdiction really deals with real property and immovable things that are not easily movable. So we're not going to talk about in rem jurisdiction, but we are going to be focusing on personal jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction. Personal jurisdiction is the jurisdiction over the parties in the case, you, me, the company, whatever or whomever the parties may be. Who are the plaintiffs and who are the defendants? Subject matter jurisdiction deals with the subject matter of the lawsuit. Is it a contract dispute? Is it a negligence action? Is it a is it a slip and fall? Is it a criminal case? So when we talk about subject matter jurisdiction, we're talking about the subject matter of the lawsuit. But understand, a court must have both personal jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction to hear and rule on a case. If a court of law is missing one of those, it cannot rule. If it, for some reason, had subject matter jurisdiction but could not get jurisdiction over the individuals in the case, it could not hear the case. You can't have jurisdiction over the parties and not have jurisdiction over the subject matter. But you might have subject matter jurisdiction but not be able to get jurisdiction over the parties. That happens a lot of family law cases when you talk about child support disputes and things of that nature. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction. And understand that each state has something called a long-arm statute. And there's a test for determining whether personal jurisdiction exists. And that long-arm statute comes into play in particular with regard to personal jurisdiction. And what a long-arm statute says is basically the state in which the plaintiff is filing the suit has the authority to reach across state lines and pull that defendant into the state where the plaintiff has filed suit in order to assert personal jurisdiction. But it has to meet certain requirements. First, it has to meet one of the allowed jurisdictional matters that are stated in the long-arm statute. And then, even if you meet that, you then have to go and look at the due process test. And the due process test says, are there minimum contacts? In other words, is there some way of developing minimum contacts, or was there some type of minimum contacts in the state where the plaintiff is filing the suit? And if so, would it offend, or will it offend, notions of fair play and substantial justice if, in fact, we do assert personal jurisdiction over the non-resident defendant, because the defendant is not a resident of the state where the defendant is being sued? Now, when you look at this from a standpoint of a negligence case where you have somebody visiting the state of Florida who has an accident with a resident here in the state of Florida and seriously injures them but goes back to its state in New York or Georgia or wherever it is, then it makes sense, right? Because they did something here that was wrong physically in the state. But when you get into cyberspace and e-commerce, it's not so clear. So you have to make sure that, in fact, we are hitting all of these prongs. We've got a state long-arm statute. There are minimum contacts. This is how we can prove minimum contacts in e-commerce case or cyber case. And it won't offend notions of fair play and substantial justice, because they knew or should have known that they would have to answer in our state for what they did wrong. So please look at the PowerPoint, because I really go through this with specificity, and it's very important that you understand, because in cyberspace we have different ways of addressing jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction in particular. We have to look at whether a website is passive or interactive. And then, in some circumstances, we have to look at the effects test. And if the effects test isn't in play, then we have to look at a sliding scale test. So all of this is highlighted and very specific in the PowerPoint. So please do take a look at it and understand it. And if you have any questions regarding the subject matter, don't hesitate to contact me, of course. So I hope you all have a great week too. Make sure you get with your teams early this week so you can go ahead and knock out that team expectation form assignment, and we can get underway. So again, any questions, let me know.